All right, back on Morning Line. You're taking a look at the brochure where we're talking about it a lot this morning, but people can get a brochure or more information, Jill, by...
Yes, by going on our website at ourkidscenter.com under the Learn tab. There are lots of good information to share with parents, with children, with anyone who has contact with children.
There's stuff in here people don't know. I mean, I've done this show so many times, and I was just reading this, I'm like, really?
Well, and it's certainly the age of the times. You know, we are a technology age, and if we're going to be handing devices to our children, we need to know what those can do and how people can use them well and misuse them. I think this is a new era of parenting as well. You know, we used to watch our kids when we would say, drop us off at the mall. It's a different, you know, you can sit in your room and have contact with 50 of your closest friends on your phone. So I think that is...
this part on the back, teaching your kids with all these, it's just great. I'm going to take this, all right? I mean, let's go over it with you. You know, when we went to the break, I was just mentioning some of the high-profile cases, and you brought up another one during the break. You know, Jarrett, you know, the former Subway spokesperson, and, you know, the more you heard about that case, the more it made you sick to your stomach. And of course, I feel sorry for Subway. They had no idea about any of this. But he was put up there for years as this very clean-cut, you know, and the image, and then of course, you know, you mentioned Jerry Sandusky at Penn State, which is just awful. But cases like that, you know, really raised awareness to some degree, right?
They absolutely did. I think it made those kids who never said anything come forward and say something. It also made adults who had never said anything call our office and say, What can I do? Will you refer me to someone for counseling? What do I need to do at this point? I've never told a soul. I've been married for 25 years. I have 2 kids, and I've never told anyone. Now what can I do? So while it was awful for the people that were encountering that, it certainly opened the door for other people to be able to talk about that. And I think that is very good, that it made it okay to talk about, and there wasn't victim shaming like perhaps that they had thought would happen.
Right. I mean, it just, again, raising awareness, which is why we do this program. I just want to, you know, throw out too, since I've been asking all these questions, are there some other points that you feel we need to touch on this morning before, you know, we wrap things up? I mean, just in terms of maybe more of what people can do. We already touched. I want to get clear, if you're aware of something going on, you have a legal responsibility to report it, correct?
That's correct.
All right. It's the law.
That is the law.
It's not something where you can just turn the other cheek on that. Some of these cases, like the Jared case that just, you know, turned my stomach, was how there were others that, you know, enabled him, and, you know, maybe because of the money he worked, whatever, that would set things up for him.
I think you have to think about all of the people that would be affected after that. If you don't stop it, then what will happen after that? And I think you have to be the strong person. It's not the easy choice, but it's certainly the right choice for children.
Okay, and the sex offender registry, you know, as it stands now, I think that's part of it. There's a sex offender registry. There's not a registry for bank robbers or something like this. As people say, there's a lot of folks that, you know, say that, you know, you're a sex offender once, you're always going to be, and can't be rehabilitated. What do you think of the registry?
I think the registry provides us a good starting point for future investigations, because those guys are very likely to be ones that will reoffend or to put kids at risk. I've arrested a number of sex offenders again, and I've put tons of them on there, and I've arrested a bunch of them a second time.
Have you had some help you after the fact that maybe are able to lead you and say, listen, you know, they know they are the way they are, and they're going to serve their time and punish, but then also because of their knowledge, they actually maybe help you or tell you where to go to look or track or things? Does that ever happen? I mean, some of them are part of networks, aren't they, where they can guide you to other sex offenders?
Most time, if we're getting their cooperation, it's because they're already in trouble for something else.
They want something in return.
And they're hoping to work with us in hopes of maybe mitigating their own issues. We have learned a lot dealing with them over the time, and that's not to say the sex offender registry is a broad range.
No,
so
I know, right.
Some of those people are dealing with were offenses involving 5-year-olds, and some were involving statutory rape, where they were like a dating relationship with a 16 and a 22-year-old.
Sure.
But the ones that we deal with that are younger, the registry provides us a good starting point in investigations. If there was a child that is abducted or that comes up missing, that's a good starting point to look at their neighborhood and go, who do we know that's already an at-risk offender that's in that area that we can start focusing on early on. And in fact, a lot of times across the country, those in different jurisdictions, the sex offender registries led them to the offenders in those child abduction cases. Not every time, and that's not to mean every offender on there is going to reoffend, but they're certainly at risk. That's why they're on there.
Right, right. The other part of this that creeps me out is that you talked about the statistics. 1 in 4 girls, 1 in 7 boys will experience some form of it. And then I'm reading here that, if you go on and set your age at 13, how many responses you're going to get instantly. And then I watch the show like To Catch a Predator, and then I hear you talking. And do we have numbers on how many sexual predators are out there? It almost makes it seem like every other person is. Good Lord. There's so many, and it's scary. And I feel like I'm in the grocery store, and I'm figuring half the people in here with me are sex offenders. I don't know. Maybe haven't been caught. But based on the numbers and everything, and what you get hits on when you go online posing as something, I mean, it sounds like they're everywhere. Now, what's the truth?
I think.
How widespread? 1 in 4? 1 in how many?
I don't know.
See, we don't have numbers on that,
I don't
really.
think we do.
But I do have a number for victims. Like she said, a lot of them don't necessarily come forward and say what happened to them.
Right.
A lot of them never come forward. The percentages of kids that eventually report abuse is in the single digits. For the number of actual offenses that happen, and a lot of those that do report may not report for 5 years. It's you're talking about the worst possible day of their life,
sure.
And then we expect them to somehow immediately come to a teacher and let me tell you about the most horrible thing I could possibly think of that ever happened to me. Let me share all those details with you. That just doesn't happen overnight. That happens. Those percentages are very small. So we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg on the ones that we're actually able to help.
And I've done stories on it. When they do finally come back, years later, maybe if they come forward, we've seen it. There isn't really a statute of limitations, is there, or is there?
Depends on the
case. Okay.
If there's a penetration offense involving a minor, the statute of limitations is much longer because the potential crime is a rape of a child versus a touching offense that didn't involve penetration. Those limitations are different in each one of those cases, depending on the age of the victim and the nature of the offense.
Yeah, it's interesting. It just made me think. I have a friend who mentioned to me penetration of a small child. A photograph of that would be a crime, right?
Yeah.
He won't post a picture, just hypothetically saying, of him brushing his daughter's teeth.
No, that's
I know, but you know what I'm saying? That's taking it to an extreme. There's a toothbrush in her mouth. But the point is, people need to understand what the law is and what is, and sometimes it can be confusing. But I think most of us, if it just doesn't feel right, it's wrong, right?
Right.
And so to report it, give folks a little more information just on Our Kids, how they can get involved if they'd like, and where they can get more information.
Our website is wonderful, and that is a great place to go for information on how to report abuse, how to get in contact with us. If you need guidance on what to do next, feel free to give us a call. All of our information is on our website, or you can call our office at 615-341-4911.
And that would be questions or someone maybe that even if they're reporting something, even though they should call law enforcement
Correct.
as well.
And we would guide them in what needs to happen next. Or if we needed to make that call, we can do that.
So people can call you directly.
Yes.
As it is. And you're funding for it. And I've been lucky enough to be part of, look, there's Sue. She's over there. She's always recruiting me to help with these, and she doesn't have to because there's so many great fundraisers. But the funding for you.
Yes, we have some very significant fundraisers throughout the year. We have a golf tournament and our Soup Sunday. We are also funded through Nashville General Hospital as well through the SAFE Fund, which is the Sexual Assault Forensic Evaluation Fund, and we have some of the best supporters in Nashville, and we're very thankful for that.
Yeah, and the important role, Rob, I mean, you deal with them. How important is it?
Oh, they are absolute. They're a must for us. We as a unit, as a sex crimes unit, we work close to 2,000 cases a year just in Metro on sex abuse. They handle a huge percentage of those exams, they're normally the first person. I mean, if I go out to the hospital to meet a child or meet somebody who's reported it, I'm going to introduce myself, but odds are my contact with that young child is going to be very minimum. I'm going to deal with the parent. Their job, like you said, they have social workers that respond out on every call out. They have a social worker that comes along with the medical personnel that come in and do the exams, but 2/3 of the time they spend is the pre-exam stuff, talking to the child, just making them feel comfortable and where they're able to open up. And then after that, the kids very often be forensically interviewed over at the Children's Alliance at a later date. But that first contact with authorities and contact with them sets the tone for the remainder of the investigation. Without our kids, we would not be able to do our job even remotely as well as we do.
Okay, because they're able to help you collect the information by setting the tone with these children who are coming in.
They collect evidence that we're going to use at trial. They may collect DNA samples off of the victim's swabs. There's a lot of stuff that they maybe document injuries, and then a lot of them will come and testify at trial about what they found in their medical exam.
It's crucial.
That's crucial
process.
to our job. Plus, they serve the whole state.
Well, that's what I was about to ask. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think about the resources. Obviously, there's a need because there's a lot of this happening here in Metro because of our population, or Memphis or Knoxville. But some of these more rural counties, they don't have detectives, as many as you, or they don't have organizations. But you sometimes. Pickett County has an issue, okay?
We have 4 satellite clinics that are around the mid-state area that are set up exactly like the clinic here in Nashville. They're in child advocacy centers in Clarksville, Cookeville, Manchester, and Lawrenceburg. So most families are within an hour and a half of getting our services. And we are very fortunate to be partnered with the people in those communities. There are detectives like Rob in those communities that are doing the same work, and they don't have the resources that a metropolitan area offers, but they certainly.
It needs to be everywhere because this happens for you.
Yes.
Listen, well, we've got to wrap it up. I'm going to give the number for our kids out when we come back after we're done. But Jill, I want to thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Rob, great. Thank you very much, both of you, for coming on. Anytime you want to come talk about this, we'll do it, all right? I'll be back. Wrap things up right after this.